So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Luke. Welcome to this Mopinion webinar. Today I'm going to take probably about 20 minutes, half an hour, just to show you a little bit about how our feedback collection analytics tool can help you boost sales on your website and improve basically the customer journey a little bit as well. I suppose just to kick off a little bit myself, first of all, I'm digital feedback specialist here at Mopinion. So I advise companies on what they can do, how they can implement and utilize our feedback tool on their website, different points in the customer journey to, as I say, ultimately, improve the user experience and help them get better conversion rates on their site as well. Joining me, by the way, in the chat, you will see my colleague. I think he sent out a couple of messages already. So if you have any questions as we go through, feel free to drop him a line. He is bilingual, by the way. I see we have quite a few Dutch users on the call as well. So feel free to type your messages to him in English or in Dutch. So what are we gonna cover in our time? First of all, I'll kick off with a bit of an introduction just about the whole philosophy, I guess, of Mopinion and our approach, if you like, to feedback. Then I'm going to jump into a bit of a demo of our product. So I'll talk, a little bit about, okay, what kind of questions should you be asking? How should you be asking them? When should you be asking them as well? So very important to get, good, usable, actionable data. And that also then, of course, leads on to how you manage the feedback as well, of course. And then, at the end, of course, we can leave the webinar open for a little bit of Q&A. If there are any questions from you guys at all, my colleague will help you out. So without further ado, I will jump into it a little bit. So, our whole, as I say, approach or philosophy really when it comes to our tool is about the why it is your visitors are doing what they're doing on your site. I mean, I don't need to tell you, obviously there are plenty of tools that are out there that tell you what is going on your website. But what we're more interested in is finding out a bit more about the why. Why is it that they're abandoning on certain pages or at certain points in your processes? That's the whole point, essentially, of this feedback collection analytics tool. You'll see when I jump into the demo section in a moment as well how we split this up. We basically break it into 3 different sections. So you have the whole data collection side. So as I mentioned, the feedback that you collect, how you ask the questions, when you ask them, what you ask them. Once you've got all of that data, obviously, which is very valuable, that's only sort of half the story. You obviously need to have a way to be able to analyze it, interpret it effectively. I mean, it's no point if you just got a great big, load of feedback that you need to export into an Excel to try and make sense of it. It doesn't work. So what we really focus on is a whole analytics suite specifically built to handle this feedback. So you can visualize basically the metrics that are important to your organization. Once that's set up, the sort of third side of all of this is then how you would go about actioning that feedback. So, it's collecting it, you can see it, you can spot the trends, but then you need to also be able to do something about it as well, which we have the capabilities to do within the platform. Right, what I will do is just quickly jump into the tool and show you around a little bit. Go here. Just before I do as well, I thought it would be good to show you a couple of live examples of feedback forms that we have running already. So this one's just a very simple feedback tab on the website of TUI. This one's in Dutch. What they're basically asking here is, did you find what you were looking for? If you answer yes, then of course they want to say, okay, well, what exactly was the goal of your visit to the site? And they're also collecting what we call a customer effort score as well. So, great that you found what you were looking for. It's an important metric to gather, but it's also interesting to know how difficult or how easy it was for you to be able to collect that feedback. Couple of others. Here's one in English from budgetair.co.uk. Again, quite a simple feedback button, quite a simple feedback form, but very effective in allowing them to collect important data about their visitors. So again, did you find what you were looking for? Why? Please explain, and so on. Another one that our Dutch visitors will probably be quite familiar with is Belvilla. Again, another button here. They use something slightly different. They've got a smileys rating on their site that they want to know from their visitors. Again, based on their answer, they're asking them for comments, and they're also giving them an ability to take a screenshot as well. So that helps sort of contextualize the feedback a little bit, so they can get a better understanding about what specifically, is the potential issue on the page. So this is the platform itself. When you log in, as I am here, you'll see that I have a selection of different feedback forms. What I'm going to do in the interests of time is just start with a feedback form from scratch. Let me show you how you would go about building your own forms. So this is basically set up as well as a self-service tool. Obviously, we help and support you along the way, and we'll advise you on, as I say, the best ways and means to build forms, what to ask, when to ask them. But it is set up in such a way that you can manage and control it all yourself as well. So I'm going to build here quite a simple feedback form. As you can see, it's basically, drag and drop interface. So I can ask, what do you think of the site? Did you find what you were looking for? If they did find what they were looking for, then as we mentioned, it's good to know, okay, how much effort did that take or not as well. And it never does any harm to ask for open comments and for a screenshot as well. Obviously, with this form, you can see as I'm building it, it's great to ask how much effort did it take you to achieve your goal, but you only want that question to appear if somebody answers yes or partially to that question. So obviously I need to apply then what we call logic to my feedback form. Another way is that to say, that you only want certain questions to appear based on what the previous answer was to another question. That just basically goes as follows. So I would say, okay, basically if I have yes or partially, then I want to make sure I show how much effort did it take. And what's also important is to make sure that I actually initially hide that question in the first place, so it doesn't appear on my form. Another interesting thing to mention at this point when you would be building a feedback form is obviously you're going to get all, in terms of data, all the answers to all these questions. As well as that, you get a lot of metadata that will come in as well. So we'll always collect the URL that the feedback came in on. We'll also collect the operating system, the browser as well, where it came in on too. But there could be other things, perhaps in the data layer of your site, that you want to collect from visitors, but perhaps you don't want to ask them. A good example could be an account ID number, for example. So what this element basically allows you to do, if there's anything existing as a JavaScript variable or as a cookie in the data layer on your page, you drop that in here, you specify what it is, and then we will basically pull that data in with the feedback data as well once it's live on your site. I won't talk too much about the designs, other than to say it's completely customizable. I think you saw from a few of the examples how you can make them look on brand. You can use your own colors, your own fonts, and what have you. That's just a good thing to experiment with, to be creative. But what is definitely important to talk about is the ways and means and how you would then trigger a feedback form, how you want it to be presented to the visitor on the page. And I'll just talk you through a little bit how you can do that within the platform now. One moment. So first of all, what I need to do is pick my feedback form that we built. That's just down the bottom here. Put it in there. An example one. And now what you need to do here is think about, okay, what's the goal of the form? What's the point? So obviously a good one on a travel site, right? If you want to improve conversion rates, it's great to catch people in the act of leaving your website. It's they could be coming, they could be about, you know, in the booking process, and then suddenly they leave your website. It would obviously be great for you to know, you know, why that is. So, you know, quite simply, why not ask them? So what we would do here, we would say, okay, I want to trigger this feedback form that I've just built, and I want it to appear on page leave. So you could build a slightly different form to what I just built now. That was more of a passive tab one, where you could just literally say, hey, before you go, can we ask why it is you're leaving? Is it because, you know, there were hidden booking costs that, you know, I wasn't aware of, or something like that, something wasn't clear, or perhaps there was a technical problem, which then they can highlight that to you and add a screenshot to it as well, so you can find out what that is. I mean, after all, if there's a problem with them paying, you want to get that resolved as soon as possible. So yeah, in this case, in order to do that, you would set the form to be triggered on page leave. There are many other filters and triggers as well that you can use. So if you only want to show it to a certain percentage of your users, you can set that up. There could, of course, be specific pages where you don't want the form to trigger, or where you only want it to trigger. Again, that can all be specified here as well throughout the whole deployment section as well. Many other different triggers that I can go through here, of course. You know, specific amount of time on the page, trigger a form to appear. That's really only more applicable if you were to trigger a form proactively. That is to say, you know, you have it pop up on a page after X amount of time. You can also show your form to visitors using certain devices as well if you want to. It's entirely up to you. What you can also do as well is show the form based on if your visitors have specific cookies, or again, a specific JavaScript variable that's on the page. That could be quite useful. A good example I can think with that is you could have well, specific account holders, and let's say they've all got a different level of account with you. So a gold, a silver, and a bronze, for instance. It could be, obviously, when they're logged in, a cookie or a JavaScript variable that specifies that. If there is, we can pick that up and then trigger a specific feedback form based on that variable. So it could be that you want to ask your gold account holders different questions to your bronze account holders, for example, and you could do that by specifying it here. So once you've got it configured the way you want to, then obviously you drop it in here on the right hand side. This is essentially your like deployment container, is a good way to think of it. And then you just have this one deployment code. You would put that into your tag manager, and then basically the form would be ready to go live. You can add as many forms as you like into that deployment container as well. So you don't have to have, you know, individual codes for each individual form. It's just one code for all your forms across your site, making it as easy as possible. Same goes for if you would need to, you know, suddenly turn it off. You don't have to go into your tag manager, take out the code, and then put it back in again when you want to change something. You can just switch it off here, and it'll come off your site right away. Make whatever changes it is you want to make, turn it back on, and it'll go back live again. And what I'm going to do now, and I'll just show you with some fictitious demo data, but once you've built a feedback form, so it's asking the questions that you want to ask, and it's triggered in a way that you want it to be triggered as well, then obviously it's going to start to bring in feedback items. You want to know how to handle that, how to manage it. I'll just show you here what that's going to look like in your feedback inbox. You'll basically get an overview like this. So you'll start to see, okay, the comments that were left, the scores that were given, and as I mentioned, some of the metadata as well. With this list, you have the ability to filter it in whatever way you want. So if you say, okay, just show me all the feedback that came in for people using a Windows operating system and the Chrome browser or not, you can do so. Obviously, you can drill down into each specific feedback item as well. I will show you here. And here, of course, then you have all the details, the URL, of course, the feedback came in on. If you remember when I was talking about the feedback form builder, you could add website data. So anything in your data layer that you wanted to pull back in, that will also appear here as well. This is obviously okay, but as you can imagine, once you get having about 100 feedback items, it's not really a manageable way of handling the feedback. And that brings me on to our analytics and reporting side of the tool, which of course is very important. You need a way to manage it as as efficiently as possible. So this is our dashboarding area. Now, basically with this, the point is it's designed to be as flexible as possible. That's really what I want to highlight. Every organization is different. Everybody has different metrics, different KPIs that are important. I mean, for examples, there are some organizations where the NPS is very, very important to them. There are other organizations where perhaps that isn't. There's other metrics they follow. So you need a system robust enough and flexible enough to be able to deal with all those differences. And that's what we have built here. So, I mean, here's a few examples of some simple charts. So you remember you can ask your customers the question, did they find what they were looking for on your pages? Yes, partly, or no. Well, here's just a breakdown of that information. So 17 yes, 23 partly, 10 no. You might want to arrange that information in the chart by date, for example, and that could be by week or by month or by quarter. You have the ability to do so. And of course, the people that are not finding what they're looking for as well, perhaps you want to drill down on that, and maybe you want to cross compare it with the URLs. What are the most common URLs where people are saying they can't find what they're looking for? Build a chart for it. In here, that's possible, and then you can start to have a look specifically what's going on those pages. Maybe it's a UX thing. You can make the switch, and then obviously in turn, hopefully improve your conversion rate through doing so. We do quite a lot with the more qualitative information as well. So I can, for example, look at all the words that are used in comment boxes in the feedback forms. And I could say, okay, just show me all the most common words that are coming through. In this case, you'll see with the fictitious demo data, the top word was connect, the second one was the company name, and the third one is cost, and so on. It's kind of interesting, but it's nice to perhaps try and give a bit more context to that data. So what I did was build then another chart where I can stack other data points against that to help put it in some perspective. So what I did here was thought, well, okay, yeah, show me all the most common words that are coming back in my feedback. But I want to see every time a low rating was given, how frequently that was along with those words. So what you basically see is, okay, connect is the most common word. Out of the 5 times that it appeared, 4 times was in a negative context. So that helps you then have a better understanding of what the sentiment is, I guess, from your users on your site on those specific pages. While we're on that topic, I'll quickly show you this. This is a dedicated text analytics area for the feedback as well. This works from an algorithm that we built, and so basically what we do, the more feedback that you get in, the smarter this gets. We'll obviously we don't include all the and, the if, the but, and everything else. We'll look at the most commonly occurring words. We'll compare them a lot with the scores or the ratings that are given in a feedback form as well. And then we can start to build out, okay, what the sentiment distribution is. So that your positive comments, your neutral comments, your negative comments, put them all into different word groups. And again, that's obviously a great way for you to get an understanding of, as I say, what the sentiment is really amongst your visitors that are leaving your feedback. Let me go back here. So there are plenty of charts that you can build out. It's really up to you what you want to build. I mean, the point is it's made as flexible as possible. I mean, I'll just show you quickly some of the ways and means you can use it. Start from scratch here. Check out the demo data. So you can see here, these are all the questions in my feedback form. Those are the words, the URLs, the metadata, or anything. I can use any of these elements to build out a chart. So again, whatever it is you would want to know or you want to track, then we would always advise, okay, well, either follow that in your feedback form or ask it in your feedback form, and then you can build a chart out of it, whatever way you want to. It's also good, I think, as well, for a lot of larger organizations. Different teams have different goals. You can have different teams responsible for different parts of the customer journey. You might have, customer service centers as well that are also sending out emails, for example, too. So you might need different dashboards. You have the capability to do that here as well, to track and manage the feedback. So right now I've got one report, and this could be, let's say, everything to do with my my exit form that I've put on my website, asking people why they are leaving. But maybe you want to collect feedback on the emails that you're sending out as well. Then you could just make a completely different report for that. You would just switch over to it, and it could be a different team managing that. So again, that's meant to be as flexible as possible, really, for you. So yeah, you can track it however you want to, whether it's split up by teams, split up by part of the customer journey. It's the important thing for me. What I'm trying to emphasize here is that it's the flexibility is there to set it up how you want to set it up. The last bit that I'll touch on, I'm just looking at the time, which has flown by, is more to do with the action management side of the tool. So once you've got your charts built and you're tracking everything the way you want to track, you need to be able to deal with the feedback as well. A good one for this is setting up alerts, for example, email alerts. So what you can do, for example, is create an alert where you say, right, every time we get a feedback item come in and they've given a score of, in fact, let me show you quickly here, pick my feedback form again. Oh, here we are. Yes, there we go. What I can basically do in here is pick different fields from my feedback form, and I could say, right, if somebody gives me a rating of 2 or lower, then I want an email alert to be sent out to whichever user it is, so they're aware of it, and they can deal with it in real time. That's also a great way to try and claw back some of the potential lost revenue as well. So let's say you have a feedback form running, and you're asking, okay, just before you go, why are you leaving? If they choose the option technical issue, and they were on a specific URL or specific flow to do with payment, then obviously you want an alert to that as well. So maybe your customer service can get in contact with them, and you can try and win back that that deal before obviously they end up going somewhere else, or they can't complete the payments. This is a good way to be able to catch them. I think then for now that was a very, very, very quick, very broad overview. I covered on a high level a lot of the main different areas. So yeah, as I mentioned, the feedback collection side of it all, what questions to ask, when to ask them, how to ask them, and of course the data side as well, how you want to manage it all, how you want to visualize it all, being up to you. So I hope it was useful. I hope you got some insights into some ideas as well about how you could apply a tool like this to your business. I hope you found it useful. I'm just gonna stop the screen share 1 second as well, and then see if there are any questions or not. 1 second, just give it a few minutes. Right, I think for now there are no more questions. But in any case, I'd like to thank you all for your time and listening. Yeah, obviously, if you do have any questions or any comments, any thoughts after the webinar, then yeah, by all means, you can reach out to me. My email address is luke@mopinion.com. That's LUKE at mopinion.com. And yeah, I'll be happy to help. I'll be keen to hear your thoughts. All the best for the rest of the day, and thanks again very much for your time.